Dallas,
We're
we're
already
live.
live. We're already live.
It's unbelievable. And
Man, it never
it's
goes that
only,
fast.
It's only 8,500 degrees in here.
Yeah. Well, what do they say? Roll up your windows. We need to roll down the windows.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also no smacking of the table tonight.
We are not going to wait. Last week we didn't even smack the
I know,
table.
it
It just went out
crashed.
on itself. We're gonna get the AHR sticker more prominent. There we go. Okay. Let me move this over to you a little bit. Oh no! I'm not gonna move it over to you
No, yeah, don't touch.
that's death. Right. Okay. So yeah.
Franco 2K. No, you're not the 1st
You're
one.
second in, Franco. Second place is first loser, bro. You know that. Jody Calhoun, what's happening? Chongo on live now. Dickie Farley, Nathaniel Menzies, Renton Made Muscle. What is happening, guys? NSB Custom Cars, John Mouse, Jason Fitch, J. Russell Fitch, Ruckwarts, Ford LTD 1976. Right, this is a weird angle. Can you see this good?
I can see it all right.
Okay, there we go. So what is happening, everybody?
It's hot.
It's hot. It's hot. I think the heat index today was like 275 degrees.
It was pretty close.
It was insane. Fubar the Axe is here.
I literally saw my the swimming pool at my house catch on fire. Like
yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah,
that's how you go. How dare you break UTG strength, please? Tony and Dallas, what's cooking? Everything is cooking. It is literally we're in an oven. I got here a little while ago. I turned on the air conditioning. It dropped it down to like whatever the lowest setting is, and it's just not doing much. Tyler, Tony is the best. No, Tyler, you're the best. I'm just here to,
Ruckwarts 1 is asking, is it always that hot in your area? No, it's never. It's actually usually never this hot. Maybe August, September, we might get a couple 100-degree days, and then that's it. But we've literally had like 2 weeks of over 100 and no rain. Right? Today was the first time it rained, and the humidity went to like 40,000%. What's actually beyond liquid water in the air?
There is no. That's it. That's it. We got it.
That's where we're at, right? That's like literally you could walk outside and water will condense on you.
Bobby Z 1964 said it almost hit 70 up there. It's terrible. Where are you, on the Arctic Circle? No, up there. That wouldn't be the Arctic. That was.
Chongo says it's baking in Wisconsin too.
Yeah, the whole middle section of the country.
Franco, hey.
Bruce Jones says I gotta start breaking my own cars. I know it's a terrible habit I have. It actually is a problem for me. Andy is here. Okay. Oh, I was only 96. Come on, man. 96.
Fab Race Mod Repeat says hello from Northeast Dragway. That's Chris Cox.
Oh, yeah.
That's the guy that works out there as promotions for Northeast Dragway.
I do have a problem breaking cars. I got to be honest with you. It's like okay, if it's a regular car, you know what I mean? I'm just going to drive it. Regular car, right? I'm a right lane driver. You know what I'm saying? There are a couple of my cars that I own that I've never seen full throttle.
Like Mrs. Landy,
right? You know, and it's just like I have no interest in trying to go fast with a regular car. But if you put me in something that is hot rod oriented,
it's got a camshaft.
I only know to brutalize it. I'm on or off. There's no in between. You know what I'm saying? There's just no in between, which is one of the main reasons why I stay away from car. I don't want to drive car. I don't want to drive. Like Andy, we did that with the GTX, and he's like, "Don't you want to take it for a ride?" I'm like, "No, you take it for a ride. Let me know how it works out."
Bruce Jones asked, "What's the best year for a 67 to 76 Dart?" Best year? Well, would it have to be before those Neater bumpers, right?
Oh, wow. I'm gonna say, Bruce. Here's the easiest way to go by this, right? Start with 67 as the best. Use 76 as the worst, and that's exactly how it works, man. Every year it deteriorated somewhat. So 67 is the best, you know, and 68 is not as good, 69 is not as good, 70 is not as good, right? And you keep going down until you get to the 76, and the 76s are truly trouble-prone cars. They have electrical issues that none of the other ones do, because 76 was the year that they decided that the direct feed amp gauge wasn't good enough. So they had to they redid the whole the whole charging system on those cars.
So it's a 1 year only.
Yeah, the people who wired it didn't even know what they were doing. They were just like, here, just stick wires in there and it'll all be good, right? And so when you have a problem with a 76 A body, it's like just rip. If you have a 76 A body, do yourself a favor and just rip everything out. Get a 75 or earlier gauge cluster, put a 1973 wiring harness in it, and call it a day.
Blake from Bad Tree is here.
That is Blake from Bad Tree. What's going on?
Yeah.
So is Charlotte. Kelly Burton, mine's a 64, so I'm biased. Slant Daily Garage is helping more with it. Oh, okay. So Slant Daily Garage, Shane Polito was supposed to be here tonight. He was supposed to be here.
Yep.
And he's sick.
He's questionable if he doesn't have the
he thinks he may
Hungarian
have
sinus infection.
Yeah. Let's see. Bruce Jones, your 75 Dart Sport had the seatbelt interlock. Yeah, 74, 75 have that. But that's an easy thing to bypass. So you got that little module under the back of the driver's side fender well, a little square box with the red button, and you just trip that out so that the signal goes directly from the key to the starter relay and bypasses that whole thing, and you never have a problem.
We got a peeper.
A what?
A peeper.
A
We
peeper.
got a pudding peeper.
Pudding. Oh, what are you doing?
Just creeping out.
Creeping on us.
Just creeping out loud.
Fabrice Mod Repeat asks, can Tony break an anvil in a sandbox?
Yes, absolutely.
Especially if it has a camshaft in the anvil.
I can break it. I absolutely can break it. I really have no business being in fast cars or anything that even resembles fast.
Rider of a Pale Horse says, tonight's question is the coil used with an electrical distributor different than a coil used in a points distributor?
Not necessarily. Like
HEI would be, but that's the only one I think it's external or internal, right? The rest of them are external, which is
he's talking about an external.
I think they're the same coil.
No, they're both like the factory coils that I'm familiar with. Will just say use an external resistor, and I've used them both. There may be a difference, but I've never paid any attention to it. I've never had a problem. Zero is here.
John Shackelford says that Clay Milliken 394 miles an hour. Do you go 394?
Yeah,
1,000 feet.
That doesn't make. I don't think so. I might have. I don't know.
That's one of those things. It's like just like you say, the new cars are like, you don't even pay attention to them. They're just like things that you want to drive around in the parking lot, like get around them.
Right.
But that's the kind of same way I feel about Top Fuel and NHRA.
I have no interest in it.
Me neither.
None.
Totally lost me.
John Wilbur, how are my Sprague breaking friends tonight? Oh, well, no, I didn't break the Sprague. I tore the Sprague out of the case. The Sprague is probably fine.
Is the case ruined?
Yes. It'll always kill the case.
Well, do you have another one?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Danny Boyd says he was never interested in dragsters.
See, I love dragsters. To me, the dragster is the ultimate expression of car. It's like take away everything you don't need. You know what I mean? You don't need a roof. You don't need windows. You don't need doors.
It's
purpose purity. But there's no place in it in today's world. Like if this was the 1960s or 1970s, the only thing I would own is dragsters. I wouldn't bother with anything else.
You come to the shop in a dragster, somebody would get mad. Shut that thing off.
Unity Motorsports, you haven't lived until you ripped a Sprague out. It's a unique feeling. It's a unique feeling.
DRC Racing Garage says, Dallas, did you see the Cash Days Lippy and Happy put on at Katy Dragway this weekend? I saw it was freaking packed. And I hadn't seen it before. It was actually, I believe that race was supposed to fill in for another one, but this one actually did really well. I was surprised. The guys at KD love the heads up stuff, and that's a very loved heads up street race style drag strip. Everybody likes that hill.
Hey guys, we have a celebrity in the house here, right? This is one of my favorite non-car channels, the Economic Ninja. He wants a new C8. This is probably the wrong crowd for that, man. We're like old hot rod drag race, muscle car people, but I get it. But if the Economic Ninja is absolutely one of the best channels on all of YouTube. Like this guy's really good. He hits a few videos every day. If you're interested in like the economic direction that things are going, uh, you might want to actually go over there and
He can give financial advice.
Well, not legally. He can't. Well, officially, he can't give.
Well, more than you though, right? Because you're not allowed to give financial advice, right? Isn't that true?
I shouldn't give any advice at all. You don't want advice from me.
Here's something interesting though. I saw something pop up. Why don't we build a 6-cylinder or 8-cylinder dragster? You remember last week we were talking about the Pontiac overhead cam 6?
Yeah.
Well, that guy actually contacted me. He wants to sell me an overhead cam 6.
Go for it.
And I'm thinking about doing it. Would there be anybody interested in seeing me rebuild one of those suckers? And I think it'd be cool.
I'm sure. I think that would make for fun.
I've never seen one, Brian. Like I mean, I remember going to a car show and you see one, and it might be the only one at the whole car show.
No, I know. See, I remember. See, I'm a little bit older than you, so I remember them actually being out and about. And I had a customer that had a Tempest with a 3-speed on the floor.
Running?
They were fantastic. It was such a sweet running motor. It wasn't like a gut ball thing. I have the same
smooth. I mean, it's in the same category as like your as a slant
283 4-barrel.
Oh, it's really like that?
Runs, feels, sounds like a 283 4-barrel.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
I definitely would do it.
But yeah, I just wanted to give that shout out to the Economic Ninja. Great guy, awesome channel. I get you 1,000%. That thing today that happened in Georgia, right? Okay. So I've been waiting for something. I've been telling Kathy, right? Kathy's probably watching this too now, right? She's at the house. I've been telling Kathy, I says, things are going to happen right around the solstice, right around the 21st. And we know what happened there with the Supreme Court and all of that. And then I said, something's going to happen right around the 4th, right around that area. And it's going to be like a turning point. Okay. And that what happened today was very symbolic of a turning point, bro.
Well, so, oh, you mean farming the gas out to other countries?
No, beyond that, way beyond that.
Okay, Andy was saying he's telling me to do the overhead cam 6 and then bring him the head to flow test it. That would be interesting.
That would be interesting. You're gonna buy that motor?
I am. I think so. I got to go to New York and get it though.
Oh, it's in New York.
It is.
Oh,
but I mean, it's not like there's 20 other guys clamoring to sell me one. Like closer.
Oh, yeah, there's Kathy. She's saying hi to everybody. Say hi to the Economic Ninja, Kat. He's in the house.
Oh, he was saying that you guys are awesome, the Economic Ninja.
Matthew Mahon, why are so few AMC cars around? Dude, they were rare back in the day. I mean, they
weren't big sellers.
Right, they weren't big sellers,
Well, I mean, think about it. At the time, you had to fight some of the best looking cars ever made, right? Like, I mean, let's think about it. 69 Camaro. I mean, it really is a good looking car. I'm not a Camaro fan. I'm not a Chevrolet fan, but they nailed it.
You can't argue with it.
69 Mustang, 70 Mustang, right? They're good looking cars. And then you had Javelin, right? And it's like, you see one and you're like,
there's just something a little off. All the AMC cars, there's something just a little bit off.
The one that to me shows how much little bit off it is do you remember when they made that Marlin muscle car, right? Had that big sloping back window, but it was like too big. I don't know how to put it. It literally made the back window too big.
It looks like it has a tumor on its back.
Right. So. But in AMC, I always kind of looked at them as like they did things in excess, right? So like, hey, if Corvette's a pretty cool 2-seater sports car, let's build one with a roof. And they shortened a regular car and made an AMX, right? And it just looks funky because it's such a short wheelbase, and it just doesn't look right.
The thing about AMC, right, was that they always went over the top. Like whatever it was that they were trying to do, they gave you extra. Like for instance, you look at the Rambler Scrambler.
Undersell, over deliver.
Yeah. They like if you were in the muscle car market in that day, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, a Rambler Scrambler, you got a snorkel scoop, you got a T-handle Hurst shifter, and you have a tack hose clamped to the steering column
From the factory.
from the factory,
Yeah.
right? It's like over the top, everything. And they
then-
did the same thing. Like,
Well, what I liked about it was like literally after they put all that stuff on and it got to the paint booth, they literally took their paint guy, fed him a whole bunch of LSD and just said, paint the car.
right, yeah,
Right.
make arrows. And stuff.
Yeah. They just went nuts.
But they did the same thing when you go like into the 70s. AMCs were like, if you bought like a Matador, okay, all of the stuff that you would have to check off as options on other cars,
They'd be standard.
it would be standard.
Right,
You know,
right.
they gave that a little bit of extra because they were like the little guy and they were trying harder. So
Well,
if
they
you
were-
bought an AMC product.
I always thought what was really neat about them, it's like a lot of them came with like Dana 44 rear ends, right? That was like their go-to kind of rear end, right? But they all had removable axles. And so it always looked funky. They always had to have some weird looking funky hubcap or center cap on the car because it's covering up that axle that you could literally remove from without disassembling the rear end, right? And it just made them look weird.
My first neutral drop casualty when I was a kid.
AMC?
No, it was a Chrysler, one of those Woodruff Key axles.
Oh, the early, like a B body, right? Okay.
Yeah, punch drive, boof. This thing go nowhere, right? Did I blow up the tranny? No, the drive shaft's spinning, the rear, everything's spinning, just the axle is.
Bunter Hayden says, couldn't even have their own damn keys.
Is the Ninja still here? Ninja, you still on here?
But so Bobby Z 1964 says, Dad bought us a 75 Pacer. It was vastly superior to the 74 Vega. I would believe that because those things came with the inline six, it's like a 258 inline six, which would have been like an unkillable motor. And then you had the Vega over there with its aluminum block and silicone sleeve.
Well, it wasn't a silicone sleeve. It was silicone impregnated aluminum.
Oh, okay.
Old Jetfire saying, Dallas, I don't think that Jetfire is a factory 4-speed after investigating.
I saw your Eric. I saw your post on there saying that hey, there's a whole bunch of stuff in the trunk that looks like it might be indicative of someone swapping it to a 4-speed. I just thought it was interesting, and the thing popped up for sale, and I knew that rare as hen's teeth, and I wanted to make sure that one of you old Jetfire guys was all over that thing. You know, I have big soft spot for Buick and Oldsmobile, but what's funny is the 61 through 63 page I'm on Facebook. It's like the Oldsmobile guys hunt the Buicks and vice versa because there's so few of the dang cars made. Whatever parts you can get, like window regulators and stuff.
Did you see? You got Facebook Marketplace on there?
Mhm.
Did you see the old Starfire on there?
Uh-uh.
This is a steal. If any of you guys are looking for like just a perfect driver 60s car, look up Marketplace, our local Marketplace, and old Starfire. I think it's a 67. Barrow's Garage. What's happening, Barrow's? You're watching it from the phone while the video is
There's a 62 or the 78 right here.
No, it's a 67. It's like $2,500. Two-door, and the car is just beautiful. The Olds Jetfire, yes, the Olds Nationals are again this week. I am going to be there.
This
definitely,
week?
yeah, we're definitely gonna go there. We're gonna hang out with Andy and see and bring my granddaughters and show them some of the Oldsmobiles.
Andy's going
Andy
from
Andy,
Union Sports Garage.
no, Andy Hansen with the Hemi GTX.
Oh, Eric, isn't it Eric?
No, Andy.
I think it's Eric Jensen.
No, Hansen. Andy Hansen. That's the guy that owns the Hemi GTX we did.
Oh, yeah. Okay, never mind. I was thinking somebody else. Eric Jensen is the guy that had that Jetfire. I'm looking at this thing, 63 Oldsmobile Cutlass.
No, it's a
62.
67 old Starfire.
I have not seen anything like that, Tony.
What'd you put in?
Oldsmobile Starfire.
Just put in Oldsmobile, see what comes up.
Oh, it might be a Jetfire, huh? You sure it was a 67?
I believe so. Let's see. Tom Brown. Have you guys seen this Omega car on YouTube built by Casey? No. Not muscle, but very intriguing. Hand-built car with a turbo diesel that will run near his Viper. Really? That's something to look into. Trying to, what happened in Georgia? I don't want to say the words because I don't want to
Be demonetized?
Yeah, I don't want to run into. I don't want to run afoul of the thing, right? So, but yeah, some monument came down in Georgia today.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
Man, I have not found
Can't
this.
find it.
No.
Ah, damn.
No, I just typed in Oldsmobile and I get 900 1990s cars. You know, that's what I'm looking for. Oh, 65 maybe?
Oh, that's it. That's it. Oh, look at that car.
Yeah, that's a good looking car.
Show the people.
Okay. So we'll zoom in here a bit. Okay. Just sit in a field.
Yeah. Okay, guys, that car's like $2,500. It's like
It's a two-door.
Yeah, it like there's no rust on it. It's got like one little dent in the quarter panel, and that's on. How much are they asking for it? Yeah, $2,700.
It's in Lebanon, Tennessee.
It's a steal. I mean,
425
and it's got a
motor.
425 volts in it.
That's the cooler motor.
Yeah,
that's the awesome one.
Seriously, one of you guys go buy that car. Go buy it now. It's literally free. It's free.
Well, the funny thing is the Starfire in those years would have probably been the low cheapy model, right? Like it's like a Buick Special with a 455.
Yeah, no, that is a brilliant undercover muscle car. Brazen Hammer, thank you for the super chat. Got a 1960 Ford Fairlane 223 straight six. 223. Gets pretty good mileage with that one barrel Holly. Yeah. Those are gas miser motors, and those carburetors were like, and remember on those engines, the carburetor, the intake manifold is integral with the head. So it's like it's almost like a vapor carburetor. It's almost like a vapor setup. So they don't make a lot of power, but they do get really good gas mileage. So yeah, that Starfire, guys, it's in Lebanon, Tennessee, which is outside of Nashville. If you go on Facebook Marketplace, just put the Nashville area, you're 50 miles of Nashville, and that will come up. Somebody go buy that car.
Willie, oh yeah. So Willie Fowring is saying, whatever happened to Bennett's garage after his pass? It just ceased to exist. And matter of fact, if Jim Bennett was still alive, that Oldsmobile wouldn't even be popping up on Facebook. He would have already nabbed it.
Can you imagine that car with the 425?
Oh, it'd be an animal. It would be an animal. That 425 is like, that was in what was in the Tornados. They're like 370 horse.
Charlotte called Tony, ever see Old's rocket fuel? Yes, I have. We have Old's Jetfire here, he's like the master of this stuff.
He has to make it at home, doesn't he? Isn't he a jet fuel mastermind?
Rocket fuel.
Rocket fuel.
Rocket fuel.
Oh.
He had a jug he had such a beautiful car. Even the color, everything about this thing is just beautiful. And he has like an NOS bottle of that of the rocket fuel.
Speaking of that, you remember when I did the HR Drag Racing History video, the interview with Jim Hall, and he was talking about they were running hydrazine, and they tried to start their car on hydrazine, and it blew the crank and all that stuff out the bottom of the motor.
I just saw something here. Mike Brunello was saying, please build the overhead cam Pontiac. You got to go get that, man.
I'm thinking I do. I think that's going to be an excellent video for a show. For like a couple of videos, I'm sure.
Otto, 1303, Tony Dallas, for what reason is NASCAR not held in the highest regard among hot rodders?
Well, it used to be.
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, it's a totally different discipline. Hot rodding, I know this is going to sound like, you know, you'll have to really think about what I'm going to say, okay? Hot rodding is all about the first revolution of the tire. And then after that, everything else is kind of incidental, right? Meaning that you go from a standing stop, right, and get the car successfully moving under power, that first revolution of the tire, then everything else just kind of is going along for where NASCAR is the exact polar opposite. It's about endurance. It's about, you know, so it's not that we don't hold NASCAR in high regard, you know, like obviously the people. It's just like IndyCar racing, you know, especially from that back in the day. Yeah, you hold in high regard, but it's a completely different discipline, and nothing relates.
So there is a few bleed overs. So in my personal opinion, when you're looking at hot rodding started when it was literally, okay, you have to think about what this was. This was a whole bunch of guys coming back from the war, thinking their way around the problem from World War II, thinking their way around the problems, right? You had like, they've always had SCCA racing. Well, a guy named Max Balchowski built a Buick powered
Right, yeah.
car called the Old Yeller. This is true hot rodding in American style. Ack Miller did the same thing, right? But they built a hot rod and ran it in the SCCA class because they met the rules. And he just murdered Ferraris and Porsches and all kinds of stuff with American ingenuity. Same thing, Ack Miller built that La Carrera Pan America car. It was a hot rod, hand-formed hot rod body with American, I want to say it had a Chevrolet small block in it. But when you're talking NASCAR, there's some bleed over. There's guys like Smokey Yunick. All right. Smokey Yunick was big into the NASCAR world, but he was also big in hot rodding, where he think his way around the problems and redevelop or re-engineer the way something worked to get 10 or 15 or 100 more horsepower out of it. Right. And that's where you have some of these icons of the sport. Carroll Shelby was kind of the same way, but it wasn't all Carroll. It was a lot of it was Henry Ford II's money, right? So
See, I don't like when it comes to cars, I don't like any type of competition where the driver becomes a factor. Does that make any sense?
you don't like a driver's class?
No, I like the machinery.
The machinery?
You know, like drag racing, hot rodding, all that, it's about the machine. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And I don't like any form of racing or competition where the driver actually becomes a factor. So in drag racing, the driver is a factor because of reaction time.
Right.
And but then past that point, he's really just a sack of meat that's in there just to get to the other end.
Make sure you keep the pedal down.
Right. To me, that's one of the great appeals of drag racing, because it's the machine that's the star. You know, whereas you talk about circle track racing or any other type of racing, a good driver can make up for a bad machine.
Right, but you also had, okay, so you had the machines and then you had the drivers of the machine. Like, okay, I'll give you the perfect example. Jungle Jim. Jungle Jim could take virtually any turdmobile car and everybody would love this dude at the drag strip.
He was a showman.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is like, that's why Jungle Jim was so popular, because he had the fast machine, plus he was willing to like do ridiculous stuff, half track burnouts when nobody else did, right? It was just that kind of fun stuff.
But no, and Franco's here. Franco knew Jungle. Franco, you worked for Jungle, didn't you? Is he in here? See, Jungle was the first person to try to put other people in his cars because he didn't really like driving them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I don't know if Franco's still in here.
He might have rolled out already.
Pirate Greg, I see where you're coming from. I like the skill of the driver as well. I kind of follow both. I have some favorite drivers like Robbie Mack in her Baja in the Baja. And favorite cars like Tomcat, also from the MSL. Yeah,
there you go. Where's Franco? He said he helped Jungle and Jake.
So Franco, how many different drivers? Jake Crimmins, who died recently. How many drivers did Jungle have? I mean, God, you start off with Claire Sanders and you go from there. There's probably half a dozen different drivers.
Uh-oh.
Jake is alive. Oh, I take it back. Sorry, Jake. Sorry.
Dr. Art just showed up, and he's local from here in town. He just bought a police car. He's looking to abuse it.
Joe Giacono died. I somehow or another I mixed the two and off my head. Say it again now?
Dr. Art, he's got a local YouTube channel here in town.
Oh,
Dr. Art's Hot Rod Rehab. Yeah, he just scored a police car, and he's like, I'm looking for somebody to drag race police cars with. Maybe that's what we should have, is that spec class at the No Name Nationals, police car class.
Well, you got Austin.
Austin has one of those.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard me. Austin! Come here!
Charlotte Quillen says, when I heard Grumpy launching his 396 at 7,500 RPM, it was about the machine. And I don't know if the Pro Stock said, did they try to run 427s and stuff back then, didn't they?
I have a cell phone.
Well, yeah, but it's easier to just hit the wall.
Until you put a hole in it.
We got a guy here, Dr. Art. He just picked up an ex-cop car. He's got a Crown Vic.
Okay.
He's looking for somebody to race.
Oh, against the Mercury?
Yeah.
My Mercury's so heavy now, it wouldn't even be competitive.
Well, his probably isn't
It's a
competitive
police
either.
car.
Yeah, police car's got a better gear.
Oh.
Police car's got a 355. Mine's got like a 2. I don't know. Hey, John!
What?
Oh, there you are. Hey, what size did the standard Panther platform come from rear end gear?
Standard was still a 273. It was just a 273 limited slip. Most departments would have optioned them for a 355 or a 323. 373s are really rare, but they're out there.
But either way.
Well, Dr. Art says, as soon as he's, let me line up with Austin, and after I kick his butt, he can go to the lake with Whistling Diesel.
Oh, yeah, that'll be fine.
Oh, you know, literally
we'll do that again.
any Panther.
Of course, he's
any-
wearing a
yeah,
Whistling
Yeah,
Diesel
oh, yeah,
shirt.
what's it? Oh.
If you're actually in a P71, you also have a 75 millimeter throttle body mass airflow sensor intake and an additional
Oh, he did run a
25
396,
horsepower.
huh?
We're
I did not
completely
know that.
derailing their shit.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
So the cop car will win.
a stock P71, as long as the transmission isn't completely blown, will beat his car.
So it's got over 200,000
Well,
miles on down.
the Charlotte, the 396 was in the modified production days before Pro Stock.
I'm almost certain Pro Stock they were 427.
Yeah.
But
There was ZL1s. He was running a ZL1.
the aluminum motor, yeah. The Copo motor.
Yeah, the 396 would have been 1969.
That was when they, so if they were running with AHRA, it would have been heads up super stock those days. And then in 70, it became pro stock in the NHRA, but it was always heads up super stock before that. But I think you're right. I think you would have ran that in modified.
Yeah.
And Tall Garage, I did see that you got some airtime. Where did I see that at? Maybe from you.
Let's see. Uh-oh, I lost track here. Fart Master Flash. Did your mom name you that? Fart Master Flash. Steve Lisk, Hemi Challenger, the first 3 car with a Lincoln. It actually might have been. Although it didn't, Joe Regalero's car, the Sudden Death Mustang, no, that came after. Yeah. Unity Motorsports, Grumpy's 386 Camaro ran Super Stock C, if I remember. That's possible.
I gotta stop looking at the ad, or I'm gonna go buy an Oldsmobile.
Isn't that beautiful?
I just don't have room for it.
Dude, the car is just beautiful. If I wasn't completely overwhelmed, I would go buy that car right now and love it and love it.
Huh.
Steve B, EV racing, it's coming. Well, it's kind of overdue. I mean, but there are people out there racing the EVs.
Actually, I'm pretty certain that once EV racing does get here, it's going to go by the wayside faster than the import scene did.
Now, why do you say that?
All right, so look at it like this. I've noticed now that because they showed up at bracket races and they'd be murderous, and you'd have a guy that had never ever driven at a bracket race in his life,
Right.
murderous, right? And that's because it's not affected by wind, it's not affected by air change, it's not affected by humidity, none of that stuff. It just goes out there and runs the same number back to back to back. So you've eliminated bracket racing. No one's going to bracket race you with another EV because there's nothing left, right?
Well, no, but that's not true at all, because you're still dealing. You go back to the driver. You're still dealing with reaction times. You're still dealing with proper
and it's
dialing and all
100%
that.
not what you wanted. It's all driver now.
It's not everything in the world is what I want.
I know, but I mean, okay, think of it like this. It's a driver's class and there's no sound. So they take off and they're literally side by side the entire track, and one of them's going to edge the other one out by 100,000. That is not fun to watch. I don't know who you are. That's
Well, the way it's okay. So perspectives are all different, right? So from my perspective, unless the thing is blown on nitro, the sound doesn't make any difference. It's just because to me, a regular car without muffler sounds like a freaking EV, so it doesn't really make any difference. But I mean, it's another form of racing, and it'll have its own technology. And if you're talking about like a heads-up, no breakout thing, there's going to be guys hopping and rewinding their motors and adding capacitors and all kinds of other crazy shit. It's just another form of hot rodding.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. I just don't know how it's going to go. I don't know if it's going to happen on the drag strip. I don't know if it's going to happen on the road course. Because the cars have only a 370-mile range limit, might open it up to just have some really awesome road course races, or some really awesome NASCAR style races where you just limit it to say 300 miles.
Charlotte's saying Grumpy's 68 386 Camaro was a super stock D. Okay. With the king, I totally agree with Dallas on this. Why? Why? I'm busy.
Have you got pipe note?
Oh God, this Teflon tape someplace.
Okay.
You're trying to use it with the
Why?
van fittings?
Don't use it.
You
Just
don't
on
use,
AV.
yeah, you don't
Don't use it.
Not on MPT.
No, not an AN.
Okay,
And that was it's AN on one side, MPT on the other.
Oh,
But no, don't use it.
yeah,
Just-
you don't use it.
Sorry about you.
That's okay.
That's right.
Okay, so EV racing wouldn't be a great spectator draw, okay? But what bracket racing is spectator draw? What, you know what I'm saying? Unless it's like, all out cars, like let's say street outlaw type of cars, right? What, really, what spectator, right? What is the spectator appeal anyway? But from a participant standpoint, like you can get just as wrapped up in hot rodding your EV as you could get wrapped up in anything else.
All right, Screaming Seaman, I'm going to help you out here, buddy, because I've already done this.
Okay.
I
saw that and I was going to mention it to you.
Yeah, I want to convert my 94 F-150 5.0 to a mass airflow. I saw a post. I can go to the junkyard and grab the MAF, injectors, fuel rail, and wiring for both. Is that all I need? Okay, so I did the same thing. And now I don't know if your 94 5.0, I think, has the car firing order. Okay, so that's where it's going to make things a little bit different because it has the non-HO firing order, the regular 302. But what I have found out is if you can go on eBay, find a computer for like a 90 or 91 Lincoln Town Car from California. It's got to be the California one because like 91, 92, 93, somewhere around there. I think it's 91 though, is where they were still square and they required to be mass airflow in California. And then you just need the MAF. You don't even need the fuel rail. You just need the MAF, and you need that computer. And then you have to repin that computer, and you need the wiring for the MAF. And you really got to move about 10 or so pins around inside the computer, but it's not inside the harness, and it's not really that hard. You just need to identify which wires are what, pull them out of the harness, either extend them or shorten them or however you want to do it, but it's really easy. And I did mine because mine was a 351 Windsor and I put a Mustang 5-liter computer in it. And what was neat is when I started it up afterwards, it just sounded like a Mustang 5-liter. It didn't even sound like that 351 Windsor truck anymore. But the fuel economy improved by like 2 to 3 miles to the gallon. And the performance was considerably better.
Let's see. Michael Logston, I have slop in my draw shift, slip yoke, and my tail shift. It changed out the tail shaft bushing. It didn't help 830 transmission, V-body Roadrunner. Well, I mean, I can't imagine what else would give you the excessive slop other than the bushing itself.
Okay, Screaming Seaman. So you have the high output firing order on a 302. But then use a Mustang 5-liter computer. But be careful. They've gone way up in price these days. But it's easy to do. I mean, it probably took me an afternoon to do it. Just get all your ducks in a row and be prepared to make a harness.
Wheelie King 71. The noises and smells make for a surprising amount of the spectator draw. I agree. The experience brings the people. I agree. Think, why do kids clothespin cards in a spoke on a bicycle? I agree. But, and here's my experience, and other people who have been around for a long time will tell you the same exact thing, right? If you go back to, let's say, the 70s and the 80s, if you brought in, if a track had, I'll use Englishtown as a perfect example. I'll use Englishtown as a perfect example. So they would book in a funny car show, okay, and they'd have 6, 8, however many nitro cars. The place would be packed. I mean, packed, standing room only, right? 30, 40,000 people. You couldn't get near the track, right? Lines coming into the track, leaving the track. And these didn't have to be hitter cars. They're just anything on nitro. Nobody gave a shit. They just wanted to see nitro cars go down the track. The next week, they'll have like a points meet, right? And they'll have every alcohol car on the planet. They'll have, like, you name it, you name the class. Every class except funny car, top fuel, and pro stock would be at a points meet. There'd be a boy and his dog in on the spectator's side.
And he was just walking by, like walking the dog.
Right, exactly. So literally the only mechanical spec and jet cars. I can't shortchange jet cars, even though they're not personally my thing, but they bring in people. The only spectator draw there is to drag racing is blown on nitro. Beyond that, it's just and the exception. I'm going to say the exception is going to be the current wave of the street outlaw cars and everything, because they are insanely fast. I mean, there's good variety to them. Yeah, this one's blown, this one's turbocharged, this one's supercharged, this one's got nitrous, this one's so there's that mix, that variety and everything, and they have the names. Robosaurus, yes, Robosaurus. Juicy Taco, Tony, do you believe the end is coming? The end for a lot of things, but it's not a problem.
So Mike, was it Brunello, says, Tony, have you ever built a 400 Dodge? Have you ever built a 400 Dodge before?
Yes.
Do you think they're any good?
Many of them, and it's all around inch for inch, pound for pound. The best. It's the biggest bang for the buck you're going to get in a big block motor. Wheelie King, the TS. Now I'm waiting for these guys to get their dirt bike running so we can throw them in the truck and go out into the woods and go have fun. I haven't done anything with it. I've been busy with other things.
Fartmaster Flash says, I always like Daryl Alderman's hood scoop explosion. You mean the nitrous backfire?
Ethan Samararo, Dallas and UT. Can I trust pinned pressing rocker studs south of 4,500 RPM motor? What I used to do with the small block Chevys, it's the easiest thing in the world, right? And whenever I build a small block Chevy for somebody, I know you could do the whole screw in rocker stud. Don't even bother. You drill. I used to use pins from the Universal. You take Universal joint. You know the pins. Okay, take the pins out. Drill a diagonal hole through the head into the stud. Drop the pin in there, and just walk away. It's as good as any screw-in rocker stud. It'll never pull out.
I would easily trust just the pressing stud south of 4,500.
Depends on the valve spring.
Well, okay, yeah, it does. But I mean, that motor obviously doesn't have a lot of camshaft in it, so I don't think it would have a lot of valve spring.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
It is a 400 Pontiac pinned by someone else. If it's a stock cam, Ethan, I think you're going to be 100% fine. It'll probably last forever.
Vince W. No, I have never met Bob Lazar, but I'd like to. A 470 lift cam, yeah, bro, no problem, man. Just pin the rocker studs and don't look back. Tony Amaducci, you're not Italian, are you? Would you trust that titanium flux core to weld titanium flux core? 12 new lower control arm brackets and gussets on a 75. Oh, titanium brand. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, they're only spot welded on from the factory, aren't they? Well, actually, it's a vet.
Doesn't matter.
Were they spot welded to the frame?
New lower control arm brackets and gussets on a 75 vet. No, it's a full weld. I could picture it. I could actually see the
Yeah, I probably work just fine. It's the later ones that got weird, right? With the
84, they started getting all
that funky chassis.
Yeah, but the earlier vets, no. I'm assuming he's not saying what year it is. I'm assuming it's an earlier vet.
Mike Batista says you individually by yourself just drove 400 big block Mopar prices up.
Joey Geo, where can we see archives of your old magazine columns? Good question, bro. They're here and there and about online. I never cataloged them or anything like that. And like honestly, up until recently, I even just denied that I did it. You know what I mean? It was just like, no, that's a previous life. I don't do that anymore.
Darwin Foster saying those pin and studs suck. Broke out the bosses many times with pin studs. Screw and rockers are the only way to go.
Darwin, I never had a problem. I built several small block Chevys back in New York for people. I never had a problem. I mean, maybe our experiences are different, or maybe the engines that you're talking about were more severe than the ones that I built.
Dickie Farley says, I'm pretty sure most of Uncle Tony's work is locked away in the Smithsonian vault. I was actually thinking more like Area 51. If you would have said Area 51, I totally would have believed it.
Nick D'Angelo, I wiped out a lifter on a freshly built 406 Chevy. Welcome to the club. I have a replacement cam and lifters. What should I do to clean the bottom end and oil passages?
Oh, take it all apart.
Bro, take the motor apart. Do yourself a favor. Just take it apart. You can drop the pin and get the stuff out of the pin, but
there's so much metal and it's so hard on the lifter.
Yep, it goes right through the bypass on the filter. It ends up in all of the oil galleys. I'll almost guarantee when you pull the cam out, you're going to find that the cam bearings are going to be chewed up from that. That's one of the common things. You wipe out a cam, right? You think you got it all cleaned out. You put it together. 2 weeks later, you got oil pressure issues. You got weird oil pressure issues. It eats the cam bearings. So take the motor apart. And I made this. Listen, I'm talking from experience. I was like, I'll be all right.
I did one in 2018 or 17. Same thing, 18. I took the whole motor apart because the pieces that you're looking at, think about the camshaft is probably the lifters themselves are probably the hardest thing in the whole engine. Mm-hmm. So when the pieces of that lifter end up in the oil pan and they go through the oiling system, nothing is going to survive that. Take it apart now while you still have a crank you can polish up. I mean, because if just one of them pieces goes through there, your rod, main journal, it's toast. You're taking and have it turned. I just stop it right now and pull it apart, clean it all up, and put it back together, new rings and bearings.
Okay, life's a wrench. I am reassembling my small block Chevy, reusing the main bearings. They have some light scuffs on them. Can I use anything to polish the bearing? I have really close to steel. Scotch-Brite.
The green Scotch.
The green Scotch-Brite. Just I mean, and I'm assuming that your judgment is good and they're just light scuffs and that the bearing isn't white. Okay, so I'm assuming you just got some light. First off, if you have light scuffs, don't even worry about it, man. Just put it back together again. If you want to make it pretty, just for peace of mind, use like a light oil, WD, PV Blaster, 3-in-1, anything, just a light oil, okay, and soak it down on with a piece of green Scotch-Brite and just do like that, right? And you clean it up. Don't use anything more abrasive than Scotch-Brite.
So Screaming Seaman, you're asking again. They made 5.0 F-150s with mass airflow sensors. I've seen them in 95 and 6. Yes, they have them. Okay. The reason why I'm telling you to do like the Mustang or whatever, here's the big difference. Your truck, even though it had mass airflow, was not sequential. It's batch fire fuel injection, right? So it's firing 4 injectors at a time. Now I don't know about those later F-150s, when they went to mass air, if they were still batch fire or not, but most likely they were, and then I think they had like 3 oxygen sensors, like literally like 1 before and 2 after the converter or something ridiculous like that. I'm telling you, just go to the Mustang stuff, man. There's so much stuff aftermarket to support that you don't. There's no time and money wasted just pissing around with that other stuff. I would just go to the sequential, and you're going to get pickup miles a gallon and performance. And no, it doesn't hurt your low end torque.
Is he Tony? I'd like to buy a good big block from you if you're interested. I don't sell. I do not sell. I would give. If I had extra, I'd give it away first, but I don't sell things because I've learned from experience when you're in the public eye, you don't sell things. It will always come back to bite you in the ass. I don't sell stuff.
Maybe I should take that lesson learned now. Man.
As you go further into remember now, you gave birth to it.
What's that?
Anything you sell.
Yeah, I know.
You gave birth to it.
Right.
So if you sell it to one guy and he sells it to another guy, who sells it to another guy that runs it down the interstate with no oil at Mach 7, okay, and grenades it, it's because it's a bad motor built by the guy Dallas from YouTube. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and then he doesn't know shit because the motor blew up.
Yeah, just trust me. Don't sell anything. Zach Roberts saying the mass air setup for 95, 96 trucks is vastly different to the speed density.
I know they have a crank sensor on them and a bunch of weird other things. I would just stick with the Mustang one.
What's on the 2B? On that 318 4-barrel intake I found, what style carburetor would have been on there? It would have a Carter. It would have an AFB.
What is a good adjustable 90-10 shock? Well, you're contradicting yourself there. You can't have a 90-10 and then it's adjustable.
Right.
So it depends what you're looking for, what kind of car you're looking for, but the ones I've always found to work pretty good are Strange actually makes some pretty good shocks because they're adjustable. Now, if you just want 90-10 only, Lakewood still is a pretty good deal.
All right. Now let me throw my 2 cents in here, right? If it's a coil spring car, Ford, General Motors, coil spring, put a 90-10 in it. If it's a torsion bar car, just drill a hole and empty out the oil that's in the shock. The best shock, if you're talking about it for a drag racing setup, the best shock for a torsion bar car, like a Mopar, is no shock at all. So, because see, and I explained this, I did a whole video on this. The torsion bar setup doesn't have rebound characteristics where a coil spring does. So you take the shock, let's say you just take the shocks out of the front of a Mopar, and you drive it over a bumpy road. It'll react to the bumps, but it won't do this. Okay, it'll do it once, right, like that. If you do the same thing with a coil spring car, it'll do it like this.
All day.
So your best shock, right? Mopars are different than Chevys and Fords. The best shock for a B-bot for a torsion bar front end Mopar is no shock at all. And since the rules say you have to have a shock at each corner, what I do have always done is take a drill. There's a small drill bit, drill in the bottom of the shock, let the oil out of the shock, and that's it. Call it a day.
So, this guy right here actually is right in my alley. SD says, I can buy a 70 Buick GS 455 stage 1 that needs restored. Original engine and transmission are gone. 455 and turbo 400 cores come with it. Rusted frame behind rear axle, 14,500. Worth it? Question mark.
I don't know. That's tough.
Yeah. All right. So,
not if it depends on the interior.
Yeah, I'm assuming the rest of the car is in pretty good shape besides the frame. But I'm assuming if it's got a rusted frame, it's going to have bad quarters and bad rockers and door panels. And bottom of fenders. And so here was my old man used to have a philosophy on this. If you're buying a $36,000 car and you got to put $36,000 in it to make it a $36,000 car, is it worth it? Right? Is the juice worth the squeeze? In this case, that car completely restored is probably worth about 36 grand. Okay. You're missing the numbers matching motor training. And that's kind of like the run of the mill thing. If that thing ever went drag racing, they probably gacked the mains in it the first week they had it. Just get a 70 block and try to put it back to somewhat original. But I don't know. It depends what you want. 14,500. If it was me, and I could just drop a motor and training and go drive around and I got a freaking 70 stage one. It's all worth it to me. I mean, that's a freaking screaming deal compared to what you would pay for something completely restored.
The thing with a car like that, right? Now, a 70 Grand Sport is just a beautiful car. Everything about it is just perfect. Okay. But they were built in small numbers. So one of the things one of the issues you're going to have with that is that if you need specific trim that goes to that car, right? Things for the gauge cluster, for the console, for the just odds and ends like that, you got to pay through the nose, and is going to spend a lot of time and energy finding these things, and you have to count that into the cost. So something may only cost you $100, but if it takes you a month of hunting and everything else, it's you got to add that into the factor. So that car could be worth that much money, but I would stay away from it unless 100% of the 70 Buick Grand Sport specific bits were there and in restorable shape. If the interior is all tore up, or it's got the wrong seats in it, or the gauge cluster is all gacked and everything else.
If you got the original stage one car distributor, like he's saying, those are the parts that's actually worth something, right? Because if you got to go buy a carburetor, that's $1,000 core, and then you're probably having somebody rebuild it. Right, so that's another 500. So that's $1,500 for a carburetor, right? If the stage one carb's there, the distributor's there, the air cleaner's there, because it's stage one. Well, it's actually GS specific, right? You got your GS grill, which nobody makes a repop. He's right. Make sure all the rest of that stuff is there. It might be worth the money. I know the rear end would be worth the money. If it's a stage one, it's $364.
Don English, you need a radiator for a 62 Valiant stock one. What radiators are interchangeable for a 62? 63 is the only year that fits that core. It's got the narrow core. 63 will interchange with that. 64, you go to the wider core. You're better off just drilling new holes and putting a 64 or later radiator in there. Any 64 or later slant 6 radiator will have the neck in the right position, facing at the right angle. No, I'm wrong about that. The angle won't be facing the right way. 63 is the only year. 63, possibly. Sorry about that. 63, 64 are the only years that are directly interchangeable. But okay.
Can you just get a different water neck and all that stuff too, then? And change the direction of the water neck?
The way the water neck comes, so on those cars, the K-frame is far forward and the neck is down low. So the lower neck comes up like this. It has like a hook that comes up like this
to clear the K-frame.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you could get a later one in there, but then the bottom hose is all kinked up against the frame rail. The K-frame. Let's see. Charlotte Cullen, the GSX had double breathers to go with the double hood scoop.
Yeah. They're just talking about saying that, well, if you look back at what was going on, those guys were saying the Buick GS and GSXs are rich boy toys, and they're not so much. I mean, think about this, all right? What he's talking about is equivalent to like an LS7 Chevelle. Are you going to go find an LS7 Chevelle for $14,500?
No, 6.
Well, which one was the badass one?
The LS6.
The 6? Okay, yeah. LS6. Sorry.
SD says, thank you, Dallas. You nailed the description of the car. It's 95% complete and original. Then it's worth it.
I would do it. If it's all there, I would do it. I mean, 455 is a 4. Here's what's funny. If you get a 7455, the casting numbers on the head are the same casting numbers on a stage 1 head. you can't tell. And Tony did a video on this, came over and I showed him the differences. They just opened up the chamber and dropped bigger valves in it, and it has the same damn casting number on it. It's not hard to make a non-stage one head a stage one head. They're really simple. They were done at the factory on the assembly line. There's nothing amazing about them. You can have as close as you can get to a stage one, and you'll have half the money that a stage one would have in it. So, I mean, I would do it, and I would just drive it. You know, what do you got to lose? I'm in the same boat. My old man had one. It was a drag car for years and years and years. Floor pans are bad in it. The trunk pan's bad in it. The car is sat with mouse pee and poop in it for 20 years. I'm going to drag it out. I'm going to put a motor and train in. I'm going to drive it. And then it'll be probably the only stage one you ever seen on the road. You know, but it'd be like Andy's Hemi GTX. Mm-hmm. He plans on driving it, right? So, yeah, just have fun with it. That's what it was meant for.
Charlotte Cohen saying the LS6 was 450 horsepower. Advertised was probably in excess of 550. No. Actually, I think it was 460 advertised. I could be wrong. It was either 450 or 460. But no, what they did was, okay, so Chrysler was keeping on the street Hemi. They rated it at 425 horsepower. But what they did was they took the rating below peak. They advertised the rating below peak, and they did that for the insurance companies. Chevy 1970 were like, well, you know what?
The gloves were off.
Right. let's just publish the real number for this thing, and the real number was like 450 or 460. The 426 Hemi made about the same, but that was it. It was just the LS6 was just a fluke of, instead of fudging the numbers to the low side to keep the insurance companies happy, they just published instead of publishing the number at 5,200 RPM, they published the number at 62.
Yeah, they went all in.
Right.
You notice that about all the 1970 muscle cars, they're all like all in, because that's where the gloves were off. Big time.
Striker 1553, RD350 guy still here. I love those. Got a GT 750, a Water Buffalo. Drove 5 hours north up to the UP of Michigan to buy it from a Canadian 1975 GT 750M. Those are cool bikes, man. They're cool bikes. The thing about, I had one and I was disappointed in it. Now I'm not saying it's a bad bike, but I was a Kawasaki triple guy, so you figure, well, a two-stroke 750, it's got to be a beast, right? But it's not. The Water Buffalo is more of a luxury bike, and they are a luxury bike. Like if you plan on doing some like cross country, you know, like road tripping with that thing, the Water Buffalo is the most astounding motorcycle you'll ever throw a leg over. It's so smooth, you won't know it's running. It's the water, the cooling system, that thing sucks up all of those like fine harmonics and vibrations you get with a two-stroke, and the exhaust is like dead quiet. And you ride down the road, and it's like, is this thing even running? Like, you got to give it gas to make sure it's still running. So yeah, they're neat bikes. They're neat bikes. Good luck with it. Let's see.
Jeff Starks, didn't the good Buick heads have the intake valves protrude past the deck on the head surface? Nice chamber finish, I recall too.
Protrude past the deck on the head surface?
I don't know what that means, but I'm going to go with a no because it doesn't sound anything familiar. The good Buick heads.
Oh, he's thinking nailhead.
Oh, maybe, yeah, because they're at such an extreme angle.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if you put the head flat, the valves would be at the deck.
It would be straight up, yeah.
Yeah. That's only the nailhead. That's not the later motors.
And the nailhead, they literally had like one head. Actually, there was a couple of them made, but they're all very similar, and they don't flow very well. But they do make good torque.
Unfinished project is dealing with the Skeeters. Billy Bob Holcomb, is there a weight limit to the starting line at a drag strip? Or can it handle a drag racing semi? They do it all the time.
Yeah, drag race semis, no problem.
Have you ever seen those?
Yeah, I like how they twist up in the front. They'll just twist like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, look up semi truck drag racing.
And you'll be amazed if either one of them has a tire in the front on the ground.
Kevin HB, thank you for the super chat. Tony, can we talk about New York City? No. just no. But thank you for the super chat anyway.
Where's HB in New York City?
Well,
Hoboken?
Hoboken, probably. Or there'd be Jersey. Charlotte Cohen says, Tony, I agree, but I have a Chevrolet authorized Corvette book. They took a bone stock 396, 375, blueprinted it to factory specs and made 400 foot. They blueprinted it. There's a huge amount of power that comes from blueprinting. Striker, well, thank you for the super chat. I just want to be able to cruise more. All day on the RD hurts my ass. Yep, the GT is for the long trips. You pick the right bike. You pick the right bike. You will love the Water Buffalo if you take it on a long trip. That's what it's built for.
Mike Batista says the 375 horse 396 is really 425. That may be. I don't know.
Kickendall. Tony, can we talk about blowing sprags and making fireworks out the rear end of cars? What's the plan for the new trans build? I'm just taking the guts and swapping it to a new case.
So Screaming Seaman saying Dallas, there's a house down the street that has a 62 Buick Wildcat. 62. All right. In their driveway, but it looks like it's backed into a light pole. Would it be worth fixing? 62, in my opinion, is probably one of the best looking cars. It has the smaller, more oval taillights instead of the big square ones like a 63. Not rectangular, but the square looking, the ones that are actually part of the fins. But that 62 looks more like exhaust from a jet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But they also have that bubble top roof from the Impala. I'm pretty sure if it's a Wildcat, it should have that. Now they have a lot more chrome. I'm more of a LeSabre kind of guy than the Wildcat guy, but you're actually starting to get into the early 60s stuff, which is really weird. Like the lug nuts are different directions on both sides. The Buick actually has its own rear end, its own drive shaft, its own floor pan. It has its own brakes all the way around. It's going to be really hard to maintain that car because it's not, none of the parts are shared across the line.
And ultimately, you're stuck with a Dynaflow.
Yeah, and it's a Dynaflow transmission, so which is a switch pitch 2-speed pretty much.
Mopar Den, what ATF do you use in a factory 9047 27 torque lights? Whatever I get on sale, whatever's cheap is what I throw in there. I go to Walmart, whatever they have a sale on is what I throw in the cars. I have never had a problem.
No, that's not true at all. Danny Boyd says he thinks the 62, the bubble top, was only available on the Bel Air and Powell. No, it was unavailable on any GMB body. Matter of fact, you could get a bubble top 4-door.
That's right.
Yep.
Jenny Penny, can we talk about the Dauntless 225?
Sure. What do you want to know? That's the Jeep variant of the Buick V6.
Did I miss a super chat?
You just click on.
Squirt McGurk. I did miss it. Thank you for the super chat, Squirt. Edelbrock carb electric choke is adjusted properly, but as the choke opens, the throttle doesn't automatically step down off the high idle cam like it should. What could I be missing? Okay, there's a there's a gravity operated weighted deal there, right? I've seen them where they just get dirty.
They don't have a spring on,
No.
like the GM Quadrajets?
No. It's just I don't have one here to. Well, maybe I do.
It's weighted, so if it's not greased, it won't fall, right?
Right. That's probably all it is. Just you'll see it follow the choke linkage down to where it meets the primary throttle blade, the throttle shaft. Okay, and you'll see that there's a weighted. It's like half of a bow tie. It kind of looks like, and that's supposed to when the choke is released and you open the throttle, the weight of that is supposed to pull it off the fast idle. So that's probably just hanging up there.
Here, let's scroll down.
Joe K is late but lurking.
What is this?
What's right?
I don't know jack crap about 396 Chevys, and it's like it's the replacement part number in a Camaro. Okay, I don't know crap about them. I'm not going to argue with you.
Joe Brandon, why does my 72 F250 idle speed increase when putting it in park after a short drive?
It's warmed up and it's improperly adjusted.
Yeah. Mild gas smell as well. No smoke.
I bet it's improperly adjusted. I would, if it was me, go start it up, let it get nice and warm, and then put a vacuum gauge on it and adjust the idle air screws with when it's warm. Because I've seen the same thing where people will adjust them when they're cold, and then when they get warmed up, it runs completely differently.
Charlotte, if you want accurate numbers, right, on any of those muscle car engines, go find out what the NHRA rates them at. Or rated them at in the day. Today is a little bit different.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Today's some of them are going to be like 500 plus horse.
Right. Go back. It's fairly easy to find, right? Go back and find out what the NHRA rated that engine at for stock. For stock
when
in
it was
1970, 1960, 1970, and that give you a really close, what the actual numbers are. Sean Calling, I've seen 375 horse 440s put out 375. Yeah, that's actually, the 375 is actually very accurate for the typical 4-barrel or its typical HP 440.
And you know what? The only ones I've ever seen that were actually different than what was advertised was the 426 Hemi and then big block Chevrolets.
Mm-hmm.
Every other one was like pretty close to what they were rated. There was no real ringers, like the 421 Super Duty Pontiac. You would think that, oh man, that thing would have been a ringer. No, it was actually, I think it's rated like 390 or 400 horse, and that's about what they make.
Unfinished project. This thing is only 12 Saturdays left to the No Name Nationals.
Sweet.
That ought to light a fire under some asses, right?
Yeah, there's got to be a lot of guys sweating it now because you just put it in figurable terms for them.
Matthew Sorek, Tony, I'm pulling out a 361 Golden Commander out of my brother's 62 Sport Fury that we're not using. I would like you to have it. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But I have so many freaking engines laying around. I will never use them. Make that offer to somebody who will actually put it to use. I greatly appreciate it, though. Thank you.
Pirate Greg saying, I can't wait till the No Name Nationals, who UTG be streaming live. I'm going to tell you right now, there's about 180 or something channels registered now. I'll guarantee you 179 of them will be streaming live. So you won't have a problem finding anything going on at the No Name Nationals September 30th and October 1st.
MLG 1969, $25 super chat. Thank you for the super chat, my brother. Hello, Tony. 1960 Saratoga with a 383. Has an Edelbrock carb on top. Runs great, but no secondaries, and trans doesn't downshift. Okay. All right. So here's what you got. Here's what you got. The ratio. Okay. Now, I did a couple of videos on this, right? Your problem is you have the carburetor, the linkage to the carburetor is set up on the General Motors. Okay. So there's an adapter. You can do this one of two ways. You could buy this adapter. The adapter shortens the ratio, bolts to the linkage on the side of the Edelbrock, and it'll bring the throttle pin down closer to the throttle the throttle shaft, and that will fix your ratio problem. Because what's happening is you're giving it gas, you're going to the floor, but you're not pulling the throttle back far enough to open the secondaries. That's because the Chrysler throttle pedals, gas pedals, have a different ratio than General Motors ones. Well, it's actually the Chevy one. The Chrysler is the same as the Cadillac. So what you want to do is you either want to buy the adapter to convert the Edelbrock carburetor over to the Chrysler ratio, or I did a video on this. I am trying to think what the name of the video was.
I remember seeing this within the past year.
Yeah.
You were here in the shop and you did it.
Yeah, where I showed where to drill the hole. Actually, the hole is already there on the linkage. You just have to open the hole to put your throttle pin in. So that's it. You just have it set up as a shit. You have the linkage set up as in the General Motors way.
So that means good thing is there's a lot more power left to be had in that 383 once you get the secondaries open.
Let's see. Screaming in Dallas, UT, do you guys find the new crazy horsepower numbers in cars comical as I do? I think it has got to pass the point where not the average person can even handle them. I don't think those cars should be sold, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't think anybody in the general public driving on the regular streets needs 700, 800, 900 freaking horsepower. But that's just me.
I don't find them comical. I don't find it useful.
Right.
Right? Like they throw all this crazy horsepower. Okay, I'll put it in perspective. Like what's the crazy Demon, Hellcat? I don't know, one of the two, right? They're like 700 something horsepower. The car weighs 4,000 pounds. Right? They went like the opposite direction that they should have went. Like,
okay, I want you to think of it this way. Okay, so you've got a 700 horsepower modern car, right? 4,000, whatever it is. It's a Charger, it's a Hellcat. You got two ways that you can operate this car. One is you put it in traction control, and that 700 horsepower gets dialed all the way back to 350 horsepower. And then it's fed in gradually, but you will not see that 700 horsepower.
It'll be at like 580 by the time you let off.
Right, okay? Or you take the traction control off and you just freewheel everywhere. So it's not really, you know what I'm saying? It's not really usable.
Yeah, that's what ended up my T-Bird. That's how I took it off the road. I was driving it back and forth to work every day. And it had like 430 horse, right? One day it started raining, and I literally was just coming down the road, and all of a sudden it just did a freaking 360 in the middle of the road, and I'm trying to gather it up, and there's nothing you could do, just blow the tires off and get worse. So I realized, hey, that's enough.
But people like to do burnouts, so.
Yeah, but a $500 455 and anything will pretty much do great burnouts.
Squirt McCurk, thank you again for more super chat. Can't stay long tonight, guys, but I'm curious when you knew you could be an engine builder. I'm not an engine builder.
I'm an engine assembler.
Yeah, I screw around with engines. I'm not an engine builder. I never claimed to be an engine builder.
Yeah, Scott Shafroff is an engine builder.
Right. You know, I can field strip a blown Hemi in 15 minutes and put it back together again in 20, but that's about it. You know what I mean? How do you know when you're good enough at building engines to sell one or do a customer job, for example? Okay, when I was a kid, 15, 16 years old, and I was a mechanic, just a regular mechanic. And back then it was normal. You know, motor comes in, it's got 110,000 miles on it, it smokes or it knocks or whatever, and it was completely normal. It wasn't like an elaborate thing. Pull the motor out, re-ring it, give it a home, re-ring it, throw some bearings in it, stick it back in the car. Just normal operating procedure.
Usually the mechanic at a gas station, because gas stations used to have a garage, right? And the mechanic at the gas station used to get these jobs all the time,
right?
And it was like run of the mill. The only reason I know is my old man actually ran a gas station in 1975 to 79, worst period in American history to run a gas station, just to let you know. But they had the same thing. It was a garage there, and you pull in, and they would do service jobs, engine replacements, rebuilds, the whole 9 yards.
It was just a normal thing to do. It's only in recent years, you know, the last generation or two, that it's become like, oh, building an engine, right? But you go back to when we were doing it, and it was just like, oh, I got to suck the motor and I throw a crank in it. It's like, okay. So that's how I knew that it was time to do it. The first time I took one apart, fixed it, and put it back together again.
I just do it on the side, honestly, right now, even because I just have so many of them. Just to get rid of them. I mean, that was the thing, and as I got stuck with a bunch of them, right? And so I just started re-ringing, re-bearing them, clean them up, and then send them out the door. Nothing super elaborate. I really won't put anything super healthy together for somebody unless it's like something that I really want to do. Right, I did that 308 Buick for a guy that we call Jack the Giant Killer. I'd been dreaming about that thing for 25 years. So that was why I did it. But I mean, as an engine builder, I am not what you would call an engine builder. I'm a pretty good assembler. And then diagnoser, I guess, is another one.
Yeah, I don't call myself an engine builder because that's not what I do.
I'm not Keith Black.
Right? You know what I'm saying? It's not what I do. I know all of the procedures, but I don't have a machine shop. You know what I'm saying? I do the things that I feel are important, for a basic build. And that's all the stuff that I do on this channel. I don't consider myself an engine builder. But I'm like him. I've got parts just laying everywhere. And a lot of times I'll just have so many parts. I'm like, well, okay, I can stick that block with those right pistons and that crank in that block. And I got those heads. I'll build an engine just to get stuff like just
Out of the way.
scattered all over the
Yeah,
place, and we'll all be together in one engine.
That's one thing that a lot of people don't think of. If you take a complete engine, it's only about this big, right? But when you disassemble it, it's like your whole entire garage is nothing but parts. And when you put them all back together, it only takes up this much space again. So, and you can get more junk in there.
Franco's saying you haven't lived until you built an engine in an auto. That's the thing. It's like Franco knows. Most of you guys don't. But like the whole concept of like, oh, it has to be clean and perfect, and everything's gonna be just so. You guys have no idea how we used to brutalize these freaking nitro motors together, like in windy parking lots, and just like laying in the gravel and the dirt. You drop your stuff and you pick it up, you wipe it on your shirt, you stick it in the car, and you send it, and it's fine. You know what I mean? It's fine.
Do you have water?
Do you have water?
Do you have water here?
I don't
Normally
think so.
you do.
No.
I'll go check real quick. I'll be right back. I really want to get some water right now.
Charlotte, Tony is like the crew chief on a bomber. He wouldn't be called an engine builder, but he knows every part of the plane. I have built an uncountable number of engines.
You're right. The only water in there is mustard.
Charles Manson, what is the functional difference between an engine builder and an engine assembler?
Oh, a builder is somebody who is literally, they're measuring each individual part, cutting things to what they want to get the exact number.
Yes.
Right. And an engine assembler, you just kind of get within the factory spec and ballpark and you're happy. Right? Like stack tolerances. You ever seen that video that they did on stack tolerances?
What you're talking about is the whole concept behind the motor and Slayhammer. I
am so one of those guys that could have got bit in the ass so many times by stack tolerances. But luckily, generally when you, all right, look at it like this. If you went and pulled an engine from a junkyard right now, how many times do you think that's been rebuilt, especially today? I'll bet 0. I bet it still has all of its factory extra deck height and extra cylinder head and extra thick head gasket and all that stuff still intact, right? Now, if it's an engine from today, yeah, I can't reuse the head bolts because they're all torque to yield, right? But you learn that by just doing a valve job on something. So you just take it home, disassemble it. As long as it has most of its factory spec stuff in there and the machining plus the metallurgy has gotten so good that it's literally like some of these, I was taking 302 Fords out of the junkyard when they were like everywhere, right? They were in Crown Vics and Lincoln Town cars and trucks and cars and all that stuff. And in the 80s, Ford increased the nickel content in the small block Ford. You could literally take them apart and they would have the crosshatch in the cylinder still, right? And so you're like, well, I can definitely get away with probably just slapping a hone in there and a new set of rings and drive it on down the road. Most of the stuff that I drove, my wife is the only one that drove anything nice in our family. And I would drive just dilapidated junk that I put together. And that's just kind of how it was. And that's how you end up saving money in the long run. My white Ford, I got about $6,000 in it. It's lasted me 6 years. I probably put 180,000 miles on it, 200,000 miles. and just drive junk.
John Wilburn has the best answer to this, I believe.
Oh, what's that?
He's got it. John Wilburn says, engine assemblers observe the specs. Engine builders create the specs.
Yeah, that's true.
That's bingo. John nailed it. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I'm the in-between. I'm the in-between, okay? I don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? I don't need to reinvent the wheel. But what I do is I maximize everything I can. I take whatever advantages I can. I clean whatever sharp edges. I contour things. I port things. I look for whatever advantages I can find, but I don't reinvent the wheel. An engine molder, on the other hand, will say, well, I want the valves at this angle. You know what I mean? It's a whole different.
Yeah, when you move the valves in relation to the chamber, you are an engine builder.
Right. And I tell you, okay, well, that's what the valves are, and I'm just gonna make them work as best I can.
That's the big difference.
Right. That's the difference.
Oh. I mean, what's the most elaborate thing that you've ever done? Like, I mean, the one I looked at is like, I changed rod length, and I was so proud of myself that I didn't have a piston smack in the head, right? Like, yay, rod, the rod length didn't make that much of a difference.
Oh, I built a I don't know if it was a 413 or 426 wedge years and years ago, right? It was flat top and it was closed chamber head, and I had the block deck because I wanted to see how far I could get away with getting the pistons to hit the heads.
How close you can
how close I could get. So I built this thing, and like rolling it over by hand, you could feel the pistons just kiss the combustion chamber, rolling over my hand.
Oh,
right?
Gosh.
So you start the motor, it rattled like crazy for, I don't know, a couple of seconds.
Till it expanded?
Until like the pistons just kind of like pounded like
a
couple of thousandths of an inch.
So,
but I had one, right?
uh-huh.
It was like a distinct noise. It was like ding, 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 as it was running. So I popped the head off it, and I took just a block, wrapped some memory cloth around the block, and I sanded the top of the piston where it was hitting the combustion chamber.
And knocked a thousandth off.
Knocked a couple of thousandths off, put it back together again, and sent it. It ran fine.
I'm sure it did, and it was probably working well with quench.
And yes, they were in backwards. Yes, they were in backwards. So I know for a fact that you can literally build an engine where the piston slaps the cylinder head and it'll run just fine and make really good horsepower.
Yeah, I'm a glorified engine assembler, I guess is what you would call it. But I did it out of necessity, right? Like most of the time it was just I had to have some kind of piece of junk that had to work, and that was it. But the stuff I'm doing now, I'm not building anything elaborate. Moving the valves in the chamber, elaborate. Putting a new head gasket in, not so difficult.
Blake Rodriguez, why did I break the man's car? I was trying to impress your fucking mom. That's why.
Wow.
Okay. Let's see. Italian Scallion, I am the SAE certified engine disassembler.
I did a lot of those before I did any kind of reassembling.
Rob's Classic, who said the best power was when the piston hits the heads? It's not when it hits the valves. No, you don't want to hit the valves.
Power's way down after that happens.
Yeah, power falls off drastically right after the pistons hit the valve. Yes. No, you want them to hit with a closed chamber head.
As close to the head as possible.
As close to hitting the head as possible. The ultimate quench is zero quench, right? So that's how you have to look at it. So that's ultimate, but you want like 10 or 15 thousandths to compensate for expansion and blah blah blah.
Well, and
blah,
it
blah,
makes
blah.
sense because so the closer the piston comes to that quench pad and a closed chamber head, the more heat that it pulls out of the combustion cycle, relieving detonation, right? So it makes sense. That's what that thing's there for.
Mike Batista, I'd be worried about the ring lanes pinching the rings. You don't get it to where the piston is going to jam itself into the head, right? It's just a kiss. It's just a late kiss. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, my super stock motor, that piston was 10 thousandths out of the hole, right? Which is actually not an uncommon thing. Usually I've seen up to 30 thousandths out of the hole. But you start getting into the point where you you get it too far out of the hole, you know, a quarter of an inch or greater, you're looking at the ring jumping out.
Jason Tower, so zero deck height? No, positive deck height. Because zero deck, okay, so if you take a closed chamber head and you have a zero deck piston and you assemble it just the head to the block, yes, you've got zero.
But you got a gasket.
You got a head gasket. So if you want to create true zero lash or zero, quench, then you're going to have the piston up as high as the head gasket.
So if you get a 40 thousandths head gasket, you would have 40 thousandths of the piston sticking out of the block.
Franco, Indian, that's right. That's right. Indian built a late model Hemi that was modular like a motorcycle engine. I never saw it, but I heard about it. Yes. Wheelie King, I dropped your 413 block on 516 heads off the machine shop yesterday. Haven't built an engine since I started my biz 9 years ago. I'm excited. It's my 70D200. Good luck with it, man.
That's actually going to be a pretty neat little motor.
Yeah. Is it small valve or big valve? Because with the 413, you can get away with the 1.6 exhaust valve. It's just when you go past that, you go to the 430 bore, you know, like you have a 440 and a 432 bore, then the extra size in the exhaust valve counts.
So Fab Race Mod Repeat says, my old boss used to build 302 and 327 Chevy dirt track motors. They all had a small west mark where the pistons
mark.
Yeah, that's from sure.
Yep.
Pistons kiss the heads.
Yep.
So
that's the thing. You see, if you're building an engine, you know, okay. So you're building an engine for a customer, let's just say, right? So you have to make sure this thing is quiet, okay? And it's not going to make any noises. It's not going to, you know what I mean? It's not going to do anything weird, okay? It's not going to use a quart of oil every 800 miles, right? That kind of thing, right? You have to make sure that it's just right for them. When you're building an engine for yourself, well, you know what? Just right, put the pistons in loose,
There's
put
no
them in
rule.
backwards,
Yeah.
let them flop around. It's all good. Let them hit the friggin' cylinder heads, right? That's all good. Get the valve train nice and loose so you have some lash in there. You know what I mean? And just let it sing.
So
okay?
that's why if you guys haven't noticed, when I put one together and I sell it, it's generally a stock engine.
Right.
It'll be stock parts. It may be a hot cam, you know, from the factory, but most of it's stock pieces and parts. Because if it was good enough for GM to sell you one, or Chrysler to sell you one, or Ford to sell you one, they knew that there was going to be idiots out there that would hold the thing to the wood for the next week, right? Until it blew up. But you're taking a chance, you know, and stock stuff generally doesn't have enough power to tear itself up most of the time.
If you were to take a full race motor, let's just say you were to take a pro stock or a pro mod motor, okay, and you were to run it through a quiet exhaust system, you know, like a stock exhaust system, you'd be horrified. You would be horrified. It would literally sound like a coffee can full of rocks.
That's how my Ford truck sounds. My 393 Windsor sounds like that.
Yeah.
It's got those Wiseco Racing Forge pistons in it. And when you start it up and it's cold, you'll swear that the pistons are about ready to break off in the block.
Yep.
But it's loose and it gets good gas mileage because it's loose.
Yeah, the hotter the engine, you would be horrified. You would be horrified. You know, that thing won't make it out of the driveway. No, it'll make 1,600 freaking horsepower.
Well, and see, that was back in the 70s when rear Morrison was the hot ticket for pro stock. When they had Shepherd was the driver, right? They did an interview with, what's the guy's name? The engine builder, Morrison. I want to say Dale, but I know that's not right. Anyway, he said, when was the last time you heard of an engine blow up because it was loose?
Never.
Yeah.
Engines don't blow up when they're loose. Engines
build
are
them
happy
tight,
when they're loose.
That's when they blow up.
Wheelie King, small valve. Okay, but I think we're going to open the exhaust up. No harm in that. It needs valves. 4 is sunk pretty deep. So far, the only gotcha is finding factory style 20,000 flat top pistons. Oh yeah, good luck with that. Geez, she's is it possible? Because you can go 10 on that, man. You can go just 10 and reuse the stock pistons.
Screaming Seaman was asking what kind of mileage does my Ford truck get. I've had upwards of 25, but when I brought the compression down from 10 3/4 down to now it's at 9.6 to 1. The best I've gotten out of it now is about 19, 20.
Italian Scallion, first time cruising Woodward Avenue, my dad stopped next to a car I thought was about to blow up. I was speechless when he put 5 bus lanes on us at the green light, right? I know, exactly. I get all of these comments. I see, that's the thing. I should not be doing YouTube because I get these comments. That sounds like shit. It's making noises. It's gonna fall apart. As soon as I hear that, I know you know nothing about motors. Like you just don't know the sound of power, do you?
So Mexican Spec saying Dallas, I have a rebuilt 65 401. It's been sitting for years. The last time I started up, it sounded like it had no oil pressure. Is that normal? It depends what you mean by years. I mean, at 2 or 10, right? Okay, the longer an engine sits, the more oil runs down back into the pan, right? It just eventually gravity will pull it back into the pan. And when you start it up, something with hydraulic lifters in it, generally it'll take a few minutes for oil to get back up to the lifters to pump them up. And that may be what you're hearing. But it could be low on oil pressure, but the nailhead really wasn't too bad on oil pressure issues. It was the later V8 Buicks.
Wheelie King, I give me machineless a piston. I need to call and check availability. I measured the ridge at 6 to 7 thousandths deep per side. I was hoping to just hold. All right, Wheelie King, listen to me, right? If that engine is typical, they built those motors from the factory. They built them with very tight piston and wall clearance. So you're going to find like 3 to 4 thousandths, all right? And it'll show you it'll show you exactly how to measure the piston, the way you go about it. Now, if you read the spec, right? You read the spec on that engine, it's going to tell you between 3 and 8 thousandths piston to wall, right? Pay attention now. Those engines are typically built 3 to 4 thousandths. The spec is 3 to 8 thousandths. If you bore it 10 over, you're now at 8 thousandths. So boring that engine, boring that 413, right? 10 over brings you to the big end of the factory spec. So if you were a dealership and this thing came in and for whatever reason you had to clean up the cylinder walls, they would tell you bore 10 over, re-ring it, and send it. So keep that in mind.
He's talking about the ridge. They also used to make a tool called a ridge reamer.
No, but he's worried about. I know that he's worried about the cylinder underneath the ridge. So the ridge is at 7 thousandths ridge, which means that the bore underneath it is open
7
thousandths, right?
Yeah. Oh, all right. Yeah.
So if he goes 10 thousandths on it, he loses the ridge. He gets fresh cylinder wall.
Right.
He reuses his stock piston.
It's probably pull all the taper out as well.
Yeah, exactly. Pull all the taper out.
Matthew Sark says, remember Rhodes lifters that clattered like crazy? Yeah, they used to bleed down. You can actually buy them still. I looked them up because I started thinking everybody's having lifters problems. Rhodes used to make their own lifter. And I thought, why not get a set of Rhodes lifters? That'll fix a lot of these lifter issues, right? I mean, yeah, okay, they might clatter a little bit because they're Rhodes lifters and they bleed down, but they won't fail. So...
Simon Cochran. Oh, that was one of my favorite trolls. Simon, what are you asking here? 188 bills in a 360 head. You mean 188 valves? 188 valves. 1.88 valves.
In a 360 head.
In a 360. How do I do that myself and make a 202? You don't. You're gonna have to have the seats cut.
Yeah, you gotta have them cut out. Install two. Well, do they just ream them out? I don't. No. Usually they take the seat completely out, cut the whole thing, put a whole new seat in, right, for that large valve.
Well, he's gonna have to do. You go from the 188. You're gonna have to go for a multi-angle valve, John. Right, because you need a plunge cut in there to make up the difference in the throat.
Right.
right between the two. So that's all got to be done by a machine shop.
Yeah.
J. Russell Finch, going 10,000s will get you slap? No, it will not.
Now you go 10,000s and flip the pistons, you might get slapped.
If you, okay, so if you went from a stock cast piston to a forged piston, what do you think you're doing? You're going to get that extra 5,000ths of an inch piston wall clearance just by making that swap. I think Hyper-Eutechnics are the same way, right?
They're tight. They're supposed to be really tight.
Are they tight? Okay.
Yeah, they're like 2,000ths tolerance.
Ray Brenzak, Tony, would you ever consider taking one of your ported heads to David Vizard's just to see what tips he might have or what his opinion would be? I would like to see his scientific. David has watched all of my videos. David has commented on it. David and I have talked. David, I have the David Vizard seal of approval on all of the things that I demonstrate on this channel.
Oh, Mexican Specs asking if the engine's been sitting for 10 years, how long would the lifters make noise before they shut the hell up? Ooh, yeah, I've started stuff up like that before where it's been sitting for a long time. The best thing that you can probably do is before you even start it, change the oil, put a new filter on, and then take it for a drive when it's like that. Make sure it's got good new gas in it. You got the points set right or whatever, but take it for a drive. And that will allow it. Don't beat on it. Just get it out and drive it easy. And it'll eventually, that heat actually does wonders for a lot of things inside that engine, after they sit for a long time.
Bobby Z 1964 got KB flat top pistons for a 318 using a 273 closed chamber heads. Should I have it zero deck, street motor, pump gas only? Yes.
Oh,
yes,
wait.
Zero deck is good. And if you can find those 22,000s steel shim head gaskets, they're still out there, still floating around. Use those, you'll be thrilled.
You ever worked on a nail head?
Yeah.
Because that's a nail head.
No, I've never been inside of a nail head.
Okay. Here's one thing I don't know. I'm not a nail head guy. I don't have any nail heads. I've never had a nail head. But the early V8 Buicks oiled through the rocker like a Mopar.
Yes.
Okay. They also had rocker stands that were mounted to the shaft. So you bolt through the shaft or through the rocker shaft, the stand into the head. If the nail head is somewhat similar to that, oil has to come up through that shaft, right? And when an engine sits a long time, those things only got like a 3/16 hole in them. And what I've seen on the early V8 Buicks that I mess with is sometimes those holes, they get plugged up with motor oil and it turns into like this gray sludge. Okay. And then when you start it up, no oil gets to the rockers. Remember the 215 when we started, it clattered like mad and I couldn't figure out why. It's because it's not getting the oil up top. But the bottom hit had oil pressure because I primed it. And it had like, you'd hear it draw the drill down. So we knew the bottom end was getting oil pressure, but it wasn't coming up top. I wonder if you have that same kind of thing going on with that car sitting for a long time. I bet what happened is the oil is drained all the way back to the pan, and those passages that normally have oil going through them are hydroscopic because it would have oil kind of, clinging to the wall of that passage. Suck some moisture in there and rust inside that passage.
That's possible.
Plug the oil. I would check that out.
Jonathan Couchy, thank you for the super chat. My brother and I picked up a 1986 D150 with a 360 and a 4-barrel. It was mainly because the cabin fenders were perfect for $400. Anyway, when did they start the 360 roller block bosses? You've probably got them in that 86 block. Probably, because because a lot of them, they had flat tappets still, but with the roller bosses, because they had started casting the blocks in advance of that, but still had flat tappet cams. And I can't tell you exactly which years, but that
Fords
86.
Like that yeah, Fords were like that around that same time frame too.
Yeah, so you're probably good with that. You probably got the roller bosses. Polly Sims. Hello, Polly.
Hey, from Washington State. It's a long ways away. Hey, how cool is it up there right now? What's the temperature in Washington State at the moment?
Well, I'm waiting for that. DCano 94. Hey, I just got a 71 Charger RT 440. Nice car. Beautiful car. Previous owner rebuilt the motor without a choke. Motor won't idle unless warm. Any quick fix? Not
Manual
really.
choke it.
Yeah, but you can put a manual choke on it, put a carburetor with an electric choke on it, or do what I would do and just don't worry about the choke. When you start it up, just
Rev it up.
feather the gas a little bit. You know what I mean? Just keep feathering the gas. After about 10 or 15 seconds, it'll want to idle on its own.
Well, and Dizzy's bringing up a good point. Dizzy, is he? He's saying that when something's sent like that, you always take out the plugs and squirt some
Yeah.
ATF in the cylinders and turn it over by hand first.
Polly Sims is in the northern part of Washington State. Oh God, you're in Canada, right? And it's about 55 degrees at night and then 65 and up, but it's actually been raining.
Man, but that's still freaking awesome temperature. It was, what is it, 115 degree heat index here today.
Jonathan Couch, you tell you, noticed some blocks had the roller bosses as early as late 1984 for 318s. I had an 87 318 and had them. Yeah, that 86 is going to happen.
Clayton is want to know when are we ever going to see my T-Bird. You know what? I'll do a video on it here soon, especially if I start running into some time crunches where I don't have time to do something. I'll do a video on it. I just actually haven't. It's been sitting in the garage, just sitting there collecting dust.
Hemi Head, thank you for the super chat. Aloha, Tony and Dallas. Wishing you all well this summer. Thank you, brother.
Mahalo.
Well, there you go. He speaks Hawaiian.
Where's Ari at? He says it was a sound 70 degrees here today, like always.
He's in San Diego, right?
Oh, womp womp. Yeah, but I did buy $5 or $4.19 a gallon gas today.
What's going on, Levi? 102 degrees in southeast Indiana. Oh,
Geez, southeast. Oh, that's not far from here.
Oh, Zero saying you're in Orange County. Really? It's that mild over there? It was only in the 70s?
It seems like 78, but hold on. Let me tell you what the nighttime temp is. It's like 48, right?
In July?
It has these huge I don't know about July, but Southern California has these huge temperature swings. It'll get up to like 78 to 82 usually is normally the high. But then it'll get down to like 40-something degrees at night. God, we used to do street racing down there by the border on the 905 freeway, I think is what it was. Wherever it was down by the Tijuana border, south of San Diego. He used to have all the junkyards on. Well, we'd go down there and race, and man, it was freaking cold. You'd go out there with a jacket and pants, and oh, it was miserable. It wasn't like street racing in Central Illinois where you go out with a 40-ounce of beer and it was like 100 degrees and 100% humidity, and you could see it coming off the corn, and your beer would sweat like literally as soon as you took it out of the cooler.
Jay Malone, I've experienced bent push rods from frozen valves on engines in South Florida. So have I. Anybody who screws around with old cars, that happens. That happens. Terrence Seymour says it was -1 there today. Terrence, where the hell are you?
He said Terrence has got to be. Well, he's in New Zealand, right? Isn't Terrence Seymour from New Zealand? So he's in winter over there right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's -1 Celsius. So that's like, what is that? 30 degrees.
Yeah.
For us.
Like
yeah, because water freezes right at 32. His water would freeze at 0.
Right.
Yeah.
Go Garage. Anyone have issues not using leaded gasoline? We've talked about that numerous times. The bottom line is that not all early cylinder heads are created equal. Okay, so some of them have, like for instance, the Chryslers. Very rare you find like big block, small block Chryslers. Very rare you find sunken seats. Although Wheelie King is having, he's got certified 16s, but I mean, they're not all created equal. It's hit and miss. And anything built after 1970 or so, They started putting the hardened seats. They started hardening the seats around 1970, 71 in anticipation of unleaded gasoline catalytic converters. So it just depends on what you got.
And who was the manufacturer?
Right.
Generally, if you look at it like this, it would be like, say, Lincoln and Cadillac would have probably been the first ones with the hardened seats. And everybody else, the further you got down the pole, the totem pole there, you get down to like Ford and Dodge. They probably were the last ones to have hardened seats, and they all wore really bad. Because we've noticed that Chevrolet was really bad about sinking valves, right? You said the like 318s and stuff were really bad about sinking valves. And then the small block Ford was bad about sinking
No, the
valves.
318s are good. It's the Fords. You'll never tear a 60s Ford motor apart and not find sunken seats.
Well, the Fords were bad, and I thought you said the 318s were pretty bad about it.
No, the 318s, the 273 318s are actually pretty good. The earliest 273 heads, like the ones that are 64
or 5, yeah.
Those, if I remember correctly, slant sixes are bad with valve seats.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was slants.
Screaming Seaman used to live in Yuma, Arizona. It would be about 115 degrees pretty much all summer.
Yeah, but here's the difference, though, man. 115-degree heat index here today, and that was just the heat index. It was only 97, but it was like 84% humidity, right? If that happened in Arizona, you guys would have like stuff growing out of the middle of that desert. That's the big difference. The humidity is just staggering.
Good night, Rating Slant 6. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we're almost at 2 hours. That went by so fast.
That did go fast. See, some nights ago it just rips.
Yeah, it just ripped by pretty quick.
What was I was just about to say something. I don't know what it was.
I don't know. Somebody asked me if T-Birds came with 428 Super Cobra jets, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say,
no.
You say no?
No. The Super Cobra, no. The 428 Super Cobra jet
Mm-hmm.
and the T-Bird.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I didn't know that. I'm not a big
Part
FB
of
guy,
the Super Cobra jet package was the fresh air.
Oh yeah, okay. So actually, that only came on the Trinos and the the Mustangs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I was going on a limb there because I didn't know, but I was going to say yes because the T-Bird was kind of equivalent to the Riviera, right? And the Riviera could come with anything in Buick's inventory. You could have got a stage 2 Riviera if you wanted.
Go Garage sent the $10 super chat. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you. Charlotte saying no Cobra jet or Super Cobra jet in the Thunderbird.
That probably makes sense. I figured Thunderbird, you could have got any of them though, because wasn't that the high-end performance Ford, like the high-end luxury
Not by
performance?
the time, not by that point. No,
Those were the big ones, the big ones.
Yeah. By the time 69, 70 rolled around, it was a barge.
Yeah.
So you get a 428 in them, but it wouldn't be the Super Cobra jet. It would be the police 428.
Yeah. Oh, it would have been. Well, you could have got like the GT heads on them, right?
No. The police 428 was just the regular 428 with a 4-barrel and an oil core and
Train cooler, power steering cooler.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking just the engine itself. Just the engine itself.
High volume pump.
Yeah, high volume. It had, right, all of the stuff to beat up out on the interstate, but not drag racing worthy.
You could have got a 429 T-Bird. And here, the thing that I always like is, I mean, they're hideous as all get out. Remember the Mercury Marauder X100?
Sure.
Like super 429 Cobra jet, whatever it is, like keep stacking them and then put it in that big Luxo barge was like a Grand Marquis, right? Isn't that what it was? It was like a Grand Marquis?
No, it was its own body, I think.
Was it?
I think. I don't know. It's such an obscure car. Beautiful cars.
They were cool looking. I mean,
Beautiful
gosh.
cars.
But they looked like, okay, so it was the opposite of a pony car. You know, a pony car is like, well, actually, it wasn't the opposite. It was the extreme far end of that, right? Wasn't it long roof, short trunk? And then that car was like super long, or not long roof, long hood, short trunk as the pony car. And that car was like super long roof, and then it literally had no trunk. It looked like it was offset to one side, to like the front of the car.
Zero is saying is going to be his 49th birthday this Sunday. You're just a child, Zero. I love it when people are turning 49 and I'm like, you're a kid.
Well, I'm not even there yet.
How old are you?
I can't say we're on live. I'm 46.
You're really a kid.
I know. My favorite Marauders were those earlier ones, like the S55. Is that what they were called? Those are the ones that could be like the 427 dual 4-barrel 4-speed. It's a 2-door. Oh, they're good looking. They're like a Galaxy.
Kiwi has got he's got a basket case project that somebody started. That they started, a shop started it, and they were like,
this is too bad.
Yeah, it's a 67 Mustang. Yeah, 67 Mustang that they were trying to put a side roller 427 in.
Oh, wow.
And they ran into all kinds of issues and
shock towers, and that would have been the big one for that.
So that's coming. He'll have that in the shop next week. So I think we're gonna follow along with that.
Squirt and Gert's asking, do we see the Thunderbird as a G-body competitor from the '80s? I do.
Yeah. See, when people say Thunderbird, I
always think that big ones.
Right. I always think the giant 73 land barge,
I do remember those things were all over them and the Cougar, and all the way up to 77 or something. Oh God, they were hideous. They were long, but have you ever ridden in one?
Yeah.
They ride so nice.
Dude, I worked on those things all the time.
They ride so nice, and I would God, these are hideous. The front end's who the hell drew this front end? It's like an upside down W, right? And then you installed headlights in there at some weird angle. But man, they rode nice. I kind of wish I would have seen those. You remember Speed Vision when it came out as an actual TV channel, and it wasn't some kind of junk.
I didn't have it then.
I didn't have it either, but I remember seeing all those old NASCAR clips. And I wanted to watch those NASCAR races from that era because these Cougars and Thunderbirds had to be flying around the track, and they looked so hideous on the road, and they were so big. But all the other cars, from GM, was like the Colonnade, or you had the Murata, right? They're all big and long cars, and it would have been unique to see them things swinging around a NASCAR track. Michael Gonnerman's question there. Right there.
Charlotte is giving all the details on the Super Cobra jet. Had high nodular iron content crank, cap screw rods from the 427, heavy duty balancer, oil cooler, and 12 rear end gears. Okay.
Michael Gonnerman's asking you, what makes a mechanical cam different from a hydraulic cam?
And the reason you can't use mechanical lifters on a hydraulic cam, or can you? 2 words: clearance ramp. Google clearance ramp, and you'll learn everything you need to know about that.
You can use mechanical lifters on a hydraulic cam, though. You can't do it the other way around. You can't put hydraulic lifters on a mechanical cam.
Right. Thank you, Jonathan. Tony, what are your thoughts on the 308 casting head? It has the best exhaust port of an LA head. I disagree with you there. And if you take out the swirl amp and put the 2 valves in it, they flow a lot. First off, the 202 valve only works on the biggest of bores. So it depends on what engine you're talking about. If it's going on a 318 or a 360, the 188 is the valve you want. If it's a 340 and bored from there, then yeah, the 202 is an okay thing to do. But the rest of the port, there isn't really enough port volume on the 318 unless you really port these things. There isn't enough volume to support the valve. It's just going to be a lazy valve, so don't go with that. The exhaust port is cast okay. The exhaust port's got a very straight shot, but they added a lot of metal. If you look at this size, the volume of that port compared to, let's say, a 67 through 69, 273, 318 head, and there's night and day difference. So the 308s are nice, but they take a lot of porting to make them work.
So a 360 regular head only has a 188 intake valve?
Yeah. The only one that had the 302 was the 340. The 67, I'm sorry, 68 through 70, 340 had a 202.
And it's fine for 360 cubic inches.
Yes.
And those things will routinely make 450 horse easy.
Yeah, well, the problem is once you, okay, they went to the 4-inch plus 40 bore size on the 340 because that was the biggest physical size they could get
in that block.
Yeah. And leave room for 60 overbore because all Chrysler engines are designed to have a 60 overbore.
Okay. So
that was the biggest size they could go with. When they did the heads for that, the head is elliptical. The head isn't, this combustion chamber isn't actually round. It's elliptical.
Okay.
It's wider than it is tall, and it's 4-inch plus 40 directly across. So if you take a 360 head, 340, 360 head, any of them, and you bolt them on a 340 block, it's exactly the width. So now on that setup, you can take the 202 valve and it will work. Okay. But now you take that head and you put it on let's say a 400, the 360 block with a 4-inch bore. There's overhang there. The valve, the cylinder bore is actually overhanging the valve, so there's no flow with that valve being open.
Yeah, it's super shrouded.
Right. So you go with the 188 and you go with the increased velocity.
I didn't know that they had a 188 valve and 360. Yeah. I just did not know that. Well, guys,
340s too. 340s from 1871 on all had the 188 valve.
Oh, so it's only 70 only that had that.
68, 69, 70.
Oh yeah. Huh? I didn't know that.
It's the 2-hour mark. Oh my God.
Is there a formula for optimal valve size?
Yeah, but I don't know what it is.
Half of bore size in David Vizard's 0.25D. I don't know. I've always found that the biggest valves you can get in there, the better. But it doesn't always work like that.
All right. So, guys, we're going to go. Dallas, what do you need to plug? What do you need to let these people know about?
Okay, No Name National, September 30th, October 1st. Let's see, John and I are doing live this Friday. We're not. That's it. Really, nothing big that I can think of. I actually had to cancel an event this week.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Just I didn't have much interest in it because a lot of guys were complaining about fuel costs. So
it's a bitch.
Yeah, and I mean, eventually it's just going to get everyone, but and there may be another one I'm going to cancel, that inliner challenge.
Not enough interest.
Yeah, it's just the interest is down right now, right? On everything. People don't want to tow, and when you do like an inliner challenge, let's face it, how many people are from KD Dragway? None. They're all going to tow in. And right now, fuel is freaking high, and people aren't willing to tow. They'd rather just stay in their local area.
John Wilburn is saying Kiwi will be live on his channel Friday, No Name 500 Content Creator Workshop, and Sunday before UTG. So Kiwi will be with John Wilburn. I will be there under a different name, trolling the piss out of you guys. And I got to come up with a troll account now.
What you already saw, you got some of the best troll names on here ever. Why don't you have like, what is it, Farts McGee or whatever it was?
Farts McGee. All right. So guys, we're going to pull a plug here. Everybody contribute super chat. Thank you so much. It keeps the wheels turning. It allows me to go tear the sprags out of shit and say, I'll just put another one together. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. AHRA. I can never do that here.
Hey, I'm going to tell you something.
I think what you should do, join that.
Your name should be the real Brian Cabral.
The real Brian Cabral. Brian Cabral Jr. I'll be his kid. All right. So, and our amazing mods, John, Ari, Fubar, Zero. Thank you guys. They have been.
There you go. Spraghammer.
Spraghammer. I gotta say something about these mods. These guys have literally been with me for years now.
And here's Zero pushing my AHRA merch because I didn't say anything about it. Thanks, Zero. That's why this guy's awesome. That's why he is one of the best mods out there. Where's Fubar? I didn't see Fubar at all tonight.
Yeah, Fubar was here.
Was he?
Absolutely. He was one of the first in.
Ask somebody.
No, I mean, these guys, my mods have been with me literally for years now. It's like, this is like 3 years. And they're there all the time. And it just, you guys do not know how grateful I am. All right, so that's it. We'll pull a plug. I'm gonna go see what kind of mess the junkyard jack guys are getting into. I got an oil pan video we're doing tomorrow morning, and that's it.
Thumper's telling me I need to go check my email. I wonder if it's something about this overhead cam 6. I gotta get this thing. So stay tuned, Mr. Rodder's neighborhood. We're gonna have overhead cam 6 sometime.
Good night, all, and thank you all. See you Sunday night.